It's how it's been all season with the Philadelphia Eagles. It is a Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage Company. Never a doubt, right, Sam Malone?
Never a doubt. Of course, we had this one the entire way. Couple stumbles, fumbles, and rumbles, whatever you want to call them. It's okay. It was Christmas Day. Never a doubt is correct.
And that was very Chris Berman of you just now.
Oh, yeah. Old school. Yeah.
So the Eagles get a win. What felt like it might be smooth sailing early on, ultimately hit a little rough water. But they get a win. At this point, it just feels like a take it how you can get it kind of a thing. And they get themselves back into the positive momentum as the Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals get set to come to town with a lot of implications on the line. So just kind of your observations from the game, what you thought, what you'd still like to see, what's kind of lingering for you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I loved the play for the most part of the offense. I think that's the offense we know, and that's the offense we know and love. And I think the one play that stands out the most is the Donovan. I keep calling him is the Jalen Hurts scramble to Calcaterra, which I think was a great play on Jalen's part, and that's what we're used to seeing with Jalen Hurts. I think the offense was moving. The interception he threw, I'm not going to blame anyone on that, except it was good defense by. Knowing that Dallas Goedert tripped, what are you going to do in that situation? It wasn't the fault of any of the Eagles. That's my take on that. It was nice to see the offense moving. It was nice to see a nice little running game rolling as well. I'd like to see the defense still. I get the Giants scored 14 points off of a short field. I understand that. I think the defense is playing a little bit better, but they still need to tighten up a whole lot. Again, the Eagles only played one half of football for the most part. The second half they usually play kind of reversed it a little bit this week, especially in the third quarter. If these guys can get 4 quarters of football, Crockett, I think we're going to be so much better of a team. But there were some positives on Christmas night. It was very nice to see. Again, the biggest thing, the offense moving the way that we're used to seeing them move for the most part.
To me, I think the play that not only made the game, but may have saved the season, may have been the ultimate breath of fresh air, was that 3rd and 20 throw where Jalen kind of gets out of the pocket a little bit and puts it right over a defender's fingertips, and AJ makes that catch on the sidelines. I think a big throw for him, a big confidence feel of a throw for him, kind of lets you know where his mindset is, that he's not wavering in kind of these I don't want to say difficult times because he's, but you lose 3 games in a row. There's tough sledding. I think that play is the play of this part of the season so far, because I mean, you're up in the game, but the momentum had swung. 3rd and 20. Certainly everybody wasn't thrilled about that. And to go out and make a huge play at that time, I think could ultimately be the play that maybe we look back on and say, whoa, if they do make a run, where did this kind of all start? Where did the confidence start to grow? And I think that maybe that's a spot that could be, to your point, defensively, still a lot to be desired. Like you said, a couple touchdowns on short fields, but also a 70-yard touchdown or whatever that touchdown was that got past Reed Blankenship there.
Right.
I think for me, this one was just okay, let's get a win. We saw some positive things. They ran the ball well. They had good stretches of, it goes back to what you were kind of feeling earlier in the season, where you would have these pockets or stretches of seeing this part of their game look good, and then that part of their game look good, and then that, but we're still waiting for that moment where all of them come together at the same time and they, kind of put their foot down on somebody. But I was just in take a win how we could get it mode on Monday.
Let's give the special teams a shout out too, specifically Britton Covey. I mean, he was having himself a game. What did Merrill Reese say? The best kick returner, punt returner we've had since Darren Sproles. So you look at that and, hey, that's in pretty good company coming from Merrill Reese. But I mean, Britton Covey, he also had a reception or 2, I think. And I was shocked to see him in there. I'm like, why are you guys going to Covey? That's the last thing you want now is your punt returner to twist his ankle or anything like that in an offensive play. But, it worked out. But, a huge shout out to the special teams. I know Covey had a fumble here, and I know that there was a huge fumble on the kickoff return. I get that to kick off the third quarter, which is unacceptable
Sure.
at this point, at this level for any team, let alone the Eagles. That was a tough one right
Well, I
there.
think especially because of the weird situation with Mason Crosby kicking off. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
understand what. Yeah, I think they're just so used to the ball getting to the goal line that
Yeah.
historically kickoffs, you'd be like, oh, great, let's take this thing. Let's, there's no wedges anymore. But that was,
Right, right.
kind of the football, quote unquote, when we were growing up. It landed at the 5, and then you'd go
Mhm.
barrel into somebody. I think they haven't seen it in so long that they just were like, what do I back up? Do you come forward? What kind of happens there? But
Could be, yeah.
yeah, but you mentioned Britton Covey. I think part of that might just be a spark. I think they were looking for, and maybe he's earned it.
Sure.
We saw, I said it to you before about, I like the intangible things that Olamide Zaccheaus brings to the field. We saw that on the Devontae Smith touchdown catch.
Oh, yeah.
Olamide sending his guy back to the Jersey Turnpike on that
Yeah,
block.
yeah.
But I'm wondering if that was a play where it's like, hey, Britton Covey is a guy that we're seeing can get a ball in space and make something happen. And do I expect him to be out there in 3 wide receiver sets? No, I don't expect
No.
that. But if you're going to empty out the backfield, you see moments of maybe 2-minute, or you see moments of 4-minute offense where you're hoping maybe you can catch a team in a substitution and try to get those guys out there.
Yeah.
Or if you're just saying, hey, he's a guy that we like in space, I didn't mind it. But yeah, I was also as surprised as you were when they actually threw a screen to him. Like, whoa, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
he was on the bubble earlier this year as well. He wasn't necessarily on the
right.
original, 53-man roster. So to see him, really step up his game from last year, which he has, it is a good sign. It's good to see that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially coming late in the season, you have a reliable punt returner back there for the most part that can,
Yeah.
create something out of nothing.
And in the return game just isn't what it quite used to be. So when you
Correct.
can get something positive out of it, when those
Mhm.
moments do come where you do need a play and
Yeah.
you can get one, that's certainly an important thing. It is a Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage Company. So what does this week bring in terms of the standings? So the Eagles sit atop the NFC East. Huge.
Yep.
Dallas and Detroit play each other this week. Implications all over the place of that one for the Eagles as well.
Mhm.
So I guess I present it to you like this, Sam. If you are, let's look at it this way. Eagles get a win against Arizona, which is certainly not guaranteed the way the season's gone.
No, not
But
at all.
Eagles get a win against Arizona on Sunday.
Mhm.
Let's say Detroit gets themselves a win against Dallas. You've locked in the NFC East.
Right.
That last week of the season
Mhm.
could have seeding implications
It
to it
could.
because Detroit could certainly make a jump to the 2 seed. You could be the 3 seed. That determines who you're going to play differently.
Mhm.
That means in the next round, if you see Detroit, that's going to Detroit versus having a game in Philly.
Correct.
I guess I'll just give you, if we're going to look at one hypothetical standing situation, and certainly not writing off a wild card game against Seattle or St. Louis
Yeah.
or excuse me, St. Louis, the LA
LA.
Rams or
Yeah,
whoever
yeah.
it may be. Um, let's just look at that one hypothetical because there's so much to be determined still. If Detroit takes care of business on
Mhm.
Sunday, if you've wrapped up the NFC East in the last week of the season,
Right.
are you going for the number 2, or are you taking that week and getting ready for the wild card round?
And then, see, that is a great question. Oof, maybe you play the starters the first half, and then maybe see. I don't know what, because look, it's going from what, seed 3 to seed which to the
So
second
you'll be the
seed.
2 or 3.
Ooh,
If
yeah,
you win the division, you're going to be the 2 or the 3.
2 of
Not
the
going to
3.
be any doubt about that.
But you have a chance to be at number 2. I see. As much as I want to rest some of these guys, for the most part, it seems like they've been resting a lot of the year. But man,
So I think so. I'll give you my answer. I think it depends on how Arizona goes. If you
okay,
get a nice win,
sure,
if you get a win that looks a little bit, I'm not saying it has to be this perfect game that seems to be out of
right,
their grips all season, but if it's one of the better games you've played in the year and you feel
hmm
pretty good about it, I would much rather say, okay, nobody's getting dressed, everybody rest up. We're putting our focus on. You're not going to be playing Dallas because Dallas is going to be
correct,
the most likely not playing Dallas because Dallas is most likely going to be that 5 seed
5,
playing
yeah,
whoever in the NFC South is.
hmm
But you've played the Rams, you've played Seattle. Maybe that's where you start to get your focus on, okay, we're going to do our homework on these teams. They're the most likely teams that we're going to be seeing in this possible opening round of the playoffs. And then, hope, maybe Minnesota does beat Detroit in that last game of the
Who knows?
season and it kind of
Yeah.
works in your favor. I think I'd rather, you always talk about the elements you can control. I think
Mhm.
I'd rather control the let's get healthy. Let's
Okay.
almost get our minds off of football for a week because this last stretch has been a roller coaster.
Mhm.
Let's go to the Meadowlands, get out healthy, come out on the other side, ready to start the new season. This is brand new. Everything that's happened before
Yeah.
this means nothing right
Right.
now. We're
Right.
focused on the next 4 games, wild card divisional, NFC championship game, Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can't argue with what you're saying there. Let me throw this into the mix. Let me just throw this. Let's say, I mean, I know your answer. It's obvious. Let's say San Francisco gets beat by Washington this week or by the Rams. Everything, I think it's Washington this weekend. Everything changes. You're playing your guys the final week of the season, I would think. Assuming the Eagles beat the Cardinals this week and everything falls into place, there's still a chance for the Eagles to be the number 1 seed in the NFL. A pretty good chance if San Francisco loses to the Rams, which the Rams will be playing for a lot as well the final week of the season.
I don't know. I think
Really?
I think this team needs a break.
Okay.
I think this team needs a
Even for a
break.
number 1 seed at
I think this team needs a break from each
okay.
other. I think there's if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm saying this Giants game's coming up. We're going to play it the next
Mhm.
day. That Monday, I want everybody out of the building. Get out of here. Don't want to see you. Get away from whatever you want to do with that day. You want to spend it with your
Right.
family. You want to go do whatever you want to do. Do it. Tuesday, we come in and our mentality is different than it's been all season. We're hitting a reset button. We've got 4 games to win. We are a team that can win 4 games in a row, and we haven't shown that we've been that great all season. We've gone on, we were 10
Mhm.
and 1 at one point or
Right.
whatever it was. That means nothing right now.
Sure.
No one believes that you are a team that was 10 and 1. They called you a fluky 10 and 1. You lost 3 games in a row. You salvaged things at the end of the season. Go and show everybody that you're a team that can beat 4 teams in a row and win yourselves a Super Bowl. I don't. I think that if you've wrapped up the division this
Right.
weekend, you've got the division locked up. You host a wild card playoff game, all that stuff. I think short of it really being an ugly
Mhm.
13-6
Oh,
win
geez. Yeah.
over Arizona, that last week to me is a get. We'll play the last 22 guys on the roster. The
Yeah.
first 30 of you just go get
And
be on the sideline, obviously,
sure.
dressed because if somebody gets hurt and we're
We
in
need
some
yeah.
sort of crazy circumstance, but get away from football.
And one going back to a good point is here's what separates the Eagles from the Dallas Cowboys. Both very good teams, obviously, but the Eagles can win on the road. I think if the Eagles would, have to go to Detroit. Remember the game last year in Detroit, the nail biter, the end of the game,
Sure,
all the
yeah.
points put
Yep.
up. But the Eagles can win on the road if they have to go to Detroit. I would say, yeah, we got a pretty good chance at winning out there because they're a pretty good road team.
And not only that, but I think there's a lot of pressure on Detroit in that game.
I do
I think
too.
there's a lot of pressure. First of all, I think there's a very good chance that Detroit's first home playoff game in forever is
Yeah.
against Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams,
Yes,
which
there
is going
really
to
is.
have its own,
Hmm.
all of the storylines you're going to want out of a playoff game right
Sure.
there. I'm going to feel like for the Eagles, it's the difference between been there before and haven't been there before. Even if
Hmm.
Detroit wins that opening round, that second round game, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, we thought we could get to the playoffs, but now
Yeah.
now you got to show you got your big boy pants on. And I
Mhm.
think the pressure there is really on Detroit more than it is Philadelphia so much. So even if that game is in Detroit, that's why I think the last week of the season, if Detroit can take
Sure.
care of Dallas this week, Philadelphia takes care of Arizona, and you've locked up the East.
Yeah.
I'm not so worried about the seeding and things of that nature because I think ultimately listen, not that it can't happen. It's a really good chance San
I know.
Francisco is going to take care of Washington this weekend.
Sure, there is. There is.
And if you're betting on that last week of the season to me is just we took care of Arizona. Our starters get healthy, chill out. I don't want you worrying about the Giants this week. Get your workouts in, do all that stuff. We're getting healthy. We're focusing on the opening round of the playoffs.
That's what they. Yeah. And you hear everything around Eagles Right now, it's Cardinals, Cardinals, Cardinals. The focus is on the Cardinals. This is this. They're not worrying about what Dallas and Detroit is doing, because if the Eagles went out, obviously we know the Eagles can win the NFC East. Also, if they do play Detroit, homecoming for DeAndre Swift as well. He'll be going back to his old
Sure.
where that could be
Sure.
something. That's something that can motivate him. Letting
Absolutely.
him walk and all this. So it's going to be an interesting. Who do you think will win on Saturday night? Detroit being in Dallas, or Dallas back home where they lost 2 in a row on the road, back to where they're comfortable?
Dallas did look really good against Miami in that
They
game,
did.
and
Sure
that
they did.
game really could have gone in either direction. I don't know
Exactly.
because again, Detroit and Philadelphia have had very similar seasons in that sometimes you'll see them and you think, okay, this team might be able to
Yeah.
be, and then you go back to Detroit got their doors blown off by Baltimore the same way that the Eagles got their doors blown off by San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Detroit's locked up the division. How much again, seeding, how much does this game mean to
Hmm.
them? Is there a possibility they're thinking, hey, we might see Detroit, we might see Dallas in the playoffs? Are we going to show all of our
Right.
cards in this game?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know, but I think I think they're a playoff team for a reason. Listen, the opening week of the season, they go to Arrowhead and win a game. So could they go to
Right. Yeah.
Dallas and win a game? Absolutely, absolutely doable. Dallas has that crazy home winning streak going on right now, but we've seen Detroit be able to throw points up on the board the same way Seattle did in Dallas a couple of weeks ago. So I
Right.
would not be
Right.
shocked at all if Detroit was able to take care of business in Dallas.
Yeah. It's the only game on Saturday night too, so everybody's going to be watching that one.
Ooh, and it'll
It's
be
going to
a
be
good
good.
one.
That's going to be a darn good game. You got
It'll
that
be a
right.
good one. It'll
Yes,
be a
sir.
good one. And a 1 o'clock game for the Eagles on Sunday,
Oh,
which is just thank goodness.
finally,
Thank
right?
you. Right?
My gosh.
What a delight. All
Oh,
right, Sam. So I think we feel pretty good against Arizona. A lot of things to get played out this weekend. Certainly, after this weekend wraps up, there's going to be a ton to talk about
there is.
next week as we get set to. We'll be bringing this show out on the road wildcard weekend. We'll figure out where that is
Yeah.
coming up. But until then, we just kind of wait to let these chips fall where they may. It's the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage Company. For Sam Malone, I'm Kevin Crockett. Sam, go Birds, man. Let's go get one against the Cardinals this weekend.
I love it. Go Birds. We got to say go Eagles, though, in specific this weekend.
Yes, specifically the Eagles. Yes, we don't want to let this little podcast thing fool anybody. We know
That's
exactly
right.
who we're rooting for. It is Cat Country
Thanks,
96
Crockett.
Birds recap. Eagles Birds